Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome to One Hen, Two Ducks.
Yes, a grown-up theater kids podcast.
I'm Megan.
My name is Selena.
Today we're talking about SIX.
Yes, Six the musical, people. Six the musical. Oh my gosh. Megan, so can you real quick just briefly tell us what Six the musical is about?
Yes. Strap in, everybody. Put on
Oh.
your theater nerd glasses because here.
And your corsets if you're a woman.
And your corsets. And here we go. SIX is the retelling of the Henry VIII Six Wives, but from their perspective of their relationship with this guy. And the way that the show kind of goes down is it's sort of like a pop concert where they're all kind of competing to see which queen kind of leads the band. But then by the end, they kind of realize there's no need for competition because they're all really great. You know, they're all really freaking great.
And I love how it was lead the band in worst life. Like, it wasn't like, oh, which queen has had the most success outside of Henry or any until, like, of course, spoiler alert, the end. But it was in the beginning. It was all about which queen had it worse. Whoever had it worse is the one that wins. And I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, because they all had it pretty terribly
when
they were married to this guy.
Bad. So making a competition out of pain is hilarious.
None of it was good. And so they have this great moment where they realize that they've all done things in their life to be remembered for other than this relationship. Which isn't that what we all want? We all want to be remembered for something that we brought to the table rather than like our most famous relationship.
Yes. You know what I mean? Who was at the table when we sat at the table. I mean, we brought something to the table too. And and a lot of the time, especially when it comes to history, we remember the men and the women are faded in the background. Like until Hamilton, not really many people talk about Eliza, even though she did way more in some aspects.
It's true. When you look at some of these stories.
And then Alexander.
The women are the one that keep the legacy going of the men, right? We're the ones that, like Jackie Kennedy.
Yes.
Like
Coretta Scott King.
Mary Todd Lincoln.
Mary Todd Lincoln.
Eliza Hamilton. These women are the ones that keep the legacy of the men around. Imagine if these women just decided to not do that. We would have no idea who these people would be. Right. We wouldn't care.
Right.
But
and it's so self-sacrificing that they still focus on their husbands more so even than themselves of what they're doing. And that is like the woman. We are constantly lifting up others, whether it's our husbands or our children, and a lot of the times we get lost in lifting people up until they look back and they're like, where did this foundation come from?
Yeah.
And it's usually a grandmother or a mother or some woman that was a staple in the family.
I'm glad that we're starting to have these conversations of like, it's time to like celebrate yourself a little bit. I'm glad we're getting there as women to be able to celebrate our own accomplishments and not let them be sat in the background of history anymore. I'm glad that we're pulling these things forward. So speaking of great women and great things being done, let's talk a little bit about this musical. So you have Toby Marlowe and Lucy Moss, two friends at Cambridge University. Toby Marlowe desperately wanted to write something to get into the Edinburgh Fringe, which I don't blame you. If I had any chance to even just go to the Edinburgh Fringe, I absolutely would go. Do you know how sick that would be? First
that
of
would
all,
have been amazing.
Edinburgh. Yeah. Second, a theater festival in Scotland. Sign me up. And so he was taking I think I saw an interview where he said he kind of written down some notes about something and he kind of submitted it, but it wasn't a full fleshed out thing yet. And he was in a poetry class where they were talking about these six wives of Henry VIII. And that's when he got his inspiration, and he texted his friend Lucy, or he made a note and said, call Lucy. And one of the things that I love that Lucy says was, he called me and pitched me this idea of this musical. And I decided right then and there if anyone else is a part of this, this could be really bad. So I came on in order to make sure it wasn't bad. And they figured out a way to not make it some kind of hokey, like, welcome to London, we're the 6 wives of Henry VIII, into something really cool and incredible.
Yeah.
So they take this really interesting piece of theater to Edinburgh Fringe in 2017. And it was so well received, being sold out and whatnot, that they're asked back for the 2018 Edinburgh Fringe. In the meantime, they get they catch the eye of producer Kenny Wax and Global Musicals. They put on a professional debut, and it's supposed to be over 4 different Monday nights in 2017, but of course, sold out. So they had to increase it to 6. They took it on tour. They brought it back to the Edinburgh Fringe. They announced that they were going to be doing a West End production, which they did. They took it on tour again. They decided to bring it back in 17th of January 2019. It was only supposed to go for, I think, 16 weeks, but they announced they were extending it into 2021 because, again, popular. And then obviously the pandemic hit. They had to shut down, but they were one of the first shows on the West End to reopen back up in December, which then promptly closed again because then all the theaters had to close again.
Yes.
So that's where we were in terms of the UK history of it. It's brought to America. It has like a Australia tour. It's taken on Norwegian cruise lines. It comes to America and they do a tour of it. They set it up at Chicago Shakespeare. And then they decide pretty much then that this is the out-of-town tryout before we go to Broadway, because it's going to Broadway. It's going to go to Broadway in 2020 is all they say. Going to Broadway 2020. They go to Cambridge, Massachusetts, the American Repertory Theater. They go to the Citadel in Canada and Ordway in Minnesota. And by then they have brought on Broadway producer Kevin McCollum and set up their run for the Brooks Atkinson Theater in New York City. Previews began the 13th of February, 2020, almost 2 years ago today. And their opening night, which was supposed to be the 12th of March, 2020, they all arrived at the theater ready to open their show. And that was when their stage manager told them to go home because all of Broadway was shut down due to the pandemic. So they never got their opening night.
So sad.
Unfortunately. So sad.
So sad.
It's really terrible.
Yeah.
So that is pretty much, that's the kind of history of how it came to be. Now in SIX, not only is it 6 ladies on stage performing, but they also have a full female band or non-binary band, which is also incredible because it's just a bunch of different energy on stage than you've ever
I bet
had
their
before.
cycles all synced. It's that amazing.
Oh, Selena. All right, so let's
saying. You know what happened, people.
Probably. Let's go on to just kind of the nitty-gritty of what's going on. So we have the cast. We're going to just focus on the Broadway cast because we can. So our Katherine of Aragon is Adrianna Hicks. Anne Boleyn is Andrea Macasaet. Our Jane Seymour is Abby Mueller. Anna of Cleves is Brittney Mack.
Oh, yeah.
Catherine Howard is Samantha Pauly. And Catherine Parr is Anna Uzele. All right, so those are the actors in the Broadway production of SIX. So we've got Adrianna Hicks, we have Abby Mueller, and we have Anna Uzele, who are returning Broadway vets. And then we have Andrea Macasaet, Brittney Mack, and Samantha Pauly all making their Broadway debut.
Oh, hopefully, 3 newbies and 3 oldies.
I know. Hopefully those Broadway debuts will happen very soon.
Imagine how excited they were and then how much disappointment
Do you know how many, there have been so many people that were like about to go into their Broadway debut show and then it shut down. I just can't even imagine it being the day of.
You finally get your dream. All your family's coming, your mama, your auntie, your cousin, your baby cousin, sister, daddy, who's twice removed. They all come in. And then it's gone. Poof.
It's gone. It's
the dream.
So upsetting. It's so upsetting.
Oh, it's so upsetting. But I'm glad that they at least got to do the previews. And I know I saw the previews. Did you see the previews, Megan?
I did. I saw,
yes.
I know that they have a couple videos that they've released. And there is some fan videos from the audience that they encourage during the Mega Six at the end of the show. Mm-hmm. And that's really fun to watch them just kind of like, there's nothing better than that first month of excitement that you're doing this on a Broadway stage.
In front of an audience.
The joy.
Yes.
Yeah, just see the joy on their faces that they're doing.
The energy that they were giving off like was so amazing. And I just loved it. I just loved the entire thing. These actors, how they approach these characters, I thought was so brilliant, because they of course, incorporated the characters and how they were supposed to be, but you could tell that they were still bringing a piece of them, and of course the pop star that they were inspired by. So we can talk about that. Like let's talk about Adrianna, who played Katherine of Aragon, and who her pop star person was and how she approached it.
Well, the way that Toby Marlowe and Lucy Moss wrote the show is they wrote each queen song with a specific pop diva in mind. And Katherine of Aragon is based on Beyonce and J-Lo and a little bit of Jennifer Hudson.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And Lucy, I love it because she said because Katherine of Aragon was going to be the first one, it needed to set the bar. And so she needed a strong female presence that basically would come in and say, F you, Henry.
Yeah.
And to set the bar for it all to go well from there. And I thought Adrianna did a fantastic job of doing just that. Of staying true to this Spanish Catholic queen, and yet still holding her own, because Katherine of Aragon did hold her own. She was not giving in. He tried to kick her out. He tried to do all kinds of stuff to her, and she was trying to take her crown from her. And she was not ever giving in. And so she brought that strength and that resilience to that character, which I absolutely loved.
Agree.
Yes.
Incredible.
And then Andrea, who played Anne Boleyn, who is, I love it because even in the musical they say, now we know you all have your favorites. And I'm like, yes, I do. I actually do. And Anna Boleyn is actually one of my personal favorites of the queens. And I thought her representation of Anne Boleyn was so amazing. So she was inspired by...
her song was inspired by Avril Lavigne, Miley Cyrus, those kind of more pop punk princesses.
Yes, punk girls that, they ain't taking nothing, and they're going to bring attitude with it. It's not only the strength of Katherine, but it's a strength and an attitude. And I don't care. Yeah. I don't care about your feelings. And I love that because she brought this almost adorable sassiness too. Because I loved her sassiness, but she was also gentle enough where it wasn't off-putting.
Yeah.
And it was endearing in her sassiness, and you could just tell that she embraced this part of Anne that really didn't understand the weight of her position and the weight of her words until it was too late. And now Abby Mueller
is Jade Seymour. She her song is Heart of Stone, and Toby and Lucy's inspiration for Heart of Stone was more of Sia and Adele. A little bit of Celine Dion in there too, even though Celine Dion's a little bit past their kind of thought process of divahood, because they wanted to make it more current divas. But there is a little bit of Celine Dion there. That moment at the end where she's like, yeah, whatever. It's so Celine. It's unbelievable.
And so if you guys don't know, SIX is a 90-minute musical, so it's rather short, but it's short for a reason, because these poor girls are on the stage the entire time. And the only break that they're really getting is during Heart of Stone. Well, at least the rest of the wives. Jane, of course, still has to sing, but at least she has to be still. But the other ones can at least like sit down and take a break, which I thought was kind. Because it's one of the only ballads in the whole musical. So I'm glad that they stuck that in there just to give their actors a break.
Yeah. And you think very much like you have, you've got Catherine of Aragon's got these kind of Spanish Latin drums in the background. You have Anne Boleyn has this kind of electric guitar, very girlfriend, Avril Lavigne, like ga 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 ga, right? And then you have this like beautiful soft piano that is Jane Seymour. It really just kind of weaves in all these different tones and things, right?
It does. Because then you go straight into freaking Missy Elliott type of bang, Brittney Mack.
Which again,
Anna Cleves.
Which again, if you want to see a really amazing short or a really great TikTok video, check out our TikTok at One and Two Ducks and see Selena do an amazing rendition of Get Down.
Oh, that song is just so much fun. I definitely do not have of Brittney's voice is far better than mine. But it was just so much fun, and that song requires so much energy, and she does it with like she gets you just as excited. And I love how she was interacting with audience members, and she was fantastic. And by the way, Anne of Cleves is my second favorite, because I guess in the whole wife thing, I love the Annes.
The Annes are great.
The Annes are great.
They're also like total badasses.
They are.
And Anne of Cleves, obviously we said before, Missy Elliott, little Rihanna, but just kind of like a very sassy, hip hop based song that she sings. That
with tons of dynamics. I mean, the dynamics. She's right here, like she's doing this beautiful high note, and then she's doing this, and then she goes to a quick moment, a slow moment. The dynamics in that song are just like, boom.
And unfortunately, they didn't get a chance to record the cast album, the Broadway cast album, but they do have the record, like the recording studio album. So if you ever get a chance to listen to that, the Anne of Cleves on that recording, she's doing all sorts, everybody in the background, they're all doing all these different trills that you'd never be able to hear in a Broadway show, because it's like them also like riffing in the back. And then she's like in the end, she's like, doing like all these cool things. It's just, it's great.
It's so great. It's great. And then we have Katherine Howard, dude.
Katherine Howard.
Samantha Pauly.
Straight up Britney Spears, Ariana Grande with that high ponytail. Oh, Britney Spears, very, like, I could hear Britney singing that song.
Yes. And for the record, I'm a huge, like, the Showtime Tudors fan as well. Not only just, like, Tudors in general, but I'm also, like, show series fan. And I could not stand that Katherine Howard. I just did not like that character. I thought she was annoying and frilly and silly. And the funny thing is that writer Lucy Moss felt the same thing. She felt like whenever she would look and research Katherine Howard, that was her reputation of being this silly, flirtatious girl that had no base, instead of a victim. And that's why that whenever I was watching and listening to her song, which was
All You Want to Do.
Which was All You Want to Do, baby. Is and that song was, to me, one of the, aside from Jane Seymour, was one of the deeper songs, because she went through this huge arc of feeling that way, of feeling silly and frilly and yes, I'm so beautiful, to being so utterly exhausted from being used. And then she had this hope. She kept having this hope of, no, a man will just love me. But nope, he loves my body only. I'm nothing but my body. And feeling that, like, I thought she did a brilliant job, Lucy Moss, of bringing that deeper part of the character to now I don't hate her. I felt so much compassion. I just wanted to cuddle that poor baby.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. Because she was so young.
She was so young. And they do such a good job of kind of, obviously, like, historically, it's hard to, like, understand how to feel historically because that was a common thing where women were married off to much older men. Obviously, nowadays we think that's horrific.
Yes.
But was something very commonplace and maybe not thought of that much that we think about it now. But it's interesting commentary to kind of equate that with like the Britney Spears situation or Ariana Grande, two women who started their careers very young, who were sexualized at such a young age, and especially in Britney's case, has been made to be the sexual object her whole life.
Yes.
And has never like really, you can even see as she's an older, you know, grown woman with kids, even on her Instagram, like she's still doing things. She thinks the only way to get attention is by doing something sexual. And it's so sad to watch because
I need a hug from her too. Come here,
we'll
Brittney.
Hug you, honey. Come here, Brittney. We got you, girl.
Poor thing.
But it's an awesome kind of moment to like have this journey of this character that you find so annoying, and like she's so full of herself, and she's like,
she
but
was
then
so annoying
you realize why that it's kind of a front, and the only way she's able to compartmentalize that is by just being like, okay, well, guess I'm just this sexy thing then, and that's what I'll be. So sad.
Her story's so heartbreaking, and I know like at the end of this show that they're like, no, none of us win, we're all strong, but at the same time in my brain I was like, I think Katherine Howard actually wins if we're gonna go by that competition that you guys started with, because I feel like hers was just because she was so young, and she was
young. She didn't even get any chance of life. She's queen for
and
like
then her
a year.
head got cut off, and I'm like,
got cut off.
What life did she live? She just lived a life of abuse and then a lost head. Like, she wins.
Which, by the way, I love how after Get Down, Anne of Cleves, they're like, and how was your life terrible? She goes, oh, that's right, it's not. So I guess I lose. Oh, well, back to the castle.
Back to the castle. I love her. And then our last one, who was the tire of it all in, was Katherine Parr, who was played by
Anna Uzele. And her song, very much, like they always say, like, anytime you talk about Katherine Parr, Lucy and Toby immediately go to Alicia Keys.
Oh, yes. She kind of looks like Alicia Keys.
She does. And just weird. The quality of her voice, that kind of jazzy, almost like very rhythm bluesy quality of her song.
Beautiful voice. Oh.
Gorgeous. It's almost even like a little John Legend-y too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Not to bring in men in this, because Alicia Keys is the original John Legend. But
oh, yes.
You know what I mean? It's that, it's that Alicia Keys, that first album, that like, I keep on falling.
So good.
It's that. Oh, it's so good.
So good. And she did a great job. And again, like in history or through the show, the Showtime series, we didn't really get to know Katherine all that much because, of course, she came at the end. By that time, Henry was old and dying. And remember, it was his story, so we weren't even focusing on her. And I just thought, okay, she's just some boring chick who dies. Who was there when he dies, and that's why she survived. It's because he was old and dead. But I loved again what they did is they brought her. Sorry, another Hamilton. They wrote her back into the narrative, and they gave her story back by reminding us that she had this whole life outside of Henry.
Yeah, it's true.
And she was a
writer, and she wrote books, and she wrote meditations. She, strove for women's equality when studying scripture and educating women. Like it was a huge. Her little actions meant progression. Yes. You know what I mean?
And I love that.
And it's so good.
I love it. I love it. And I don't know if you noticed, Megan, but all of these queens and all of these characters. Actually, I was talking to my friend about it, and we were looking at pictures and everything, and she noticed that all of the crowns that they had spikes. They were all different kinds of spikes of this almost like and this feel of their reign came with pain. the rain and pain. I'm just kidding. But the rain came with this excruciating weight and pain, which I thought is beautiful. And that's why I'm excited to talk about the costumer.
Yes. And on the flip side of that, not only did it came with pain, yes, but then what's more powerful than a spike, baby?
Right? At the
That's
same
then
time.
Gonna get up in
and
your
pain
business.
Is gain. Oh, the rain came with pain. That was gain.
Boom, boom, boom. Going into
Somebody
costume
hire
design.
Me. Somebody hire me. Lynn?
Can we get someone on the phone, please? And anybody at this point, anyone on the phone.
We're always asking for people to get on the phone.
Can someone just call us?
Producer, Kristen, get someone on the phone. We've been asking for this for how many episodes?
Can we get someone in the live audience pool right now? All right, costumes. Gabriella Slade.
Yes.
Gabriella Slade. She took Tudor inspiration, such as like corsets, square necklines, different paneling. And then she took kind of more modern stylings from like Alexander McQueen. And one of her things that she talks about is taking these old styles, but putting them with these new fabrics, these vinyls, these acrylics, these metallics. And that's where you get such a contemporary look. She says that all the costumes are extremely heavy. Katherine of Aragon's is the hardest costume to make and keep up with because it is so intricate. And that, don't know if you noticed, but there are no purple costumes. Because purple
is for royalty.
Is the color of the show. That's the brand color. Brand color. So no queen will ever be in purple.
I noticed that. And I thought it was because they're trying to separate from the royalty, because purple is usually associated with royalty, but that makes more sense.
Yeah. Obviously you have gold for Catherine Aragon because she's from Spain. And at the time, Spain, very rich country, rich in gold. You have Anne Boleyn, and she's in green because they reference it a lot in the show. The legend that Henry VIII wrote Anne Boleyn, the poem Greensleeves. And so she has a whole line about how she's like, oh, my sleeves may be green, and she sings a little Greensleeves moment. And there is a little like da 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 da, right, in Ex-Wives. Then you have Jane Seymour, who's black and white.
Which is very Jane Seymour-y.
Which is very Jane Seymour-y. She's white, she's pure. She's the one that died in childbirth. She was the one that gave him what he wanted, and then she died. But there was something else that I don't know if I understand. I wrote it down. It's over here. The design on her corset is supposed to be reminiscent of half-timbered houses.
Oh, that makes... Oh, yeah, and that's exactly her... That is exactly her corset.
Yeah, so that's her aesthetic, is that half-timbered house.
Nice.
And then you have Anne of Cleves. She, she's... doesn't care. Badass.
Nope, she
she's
care.
She was the one that was divorced. Right?
So
she's
looks.
red. Yeah. So she's red because she's fiery. She's the one that got away, essentially.
Yeah,
you have Catherine Howard in pink because she's young. And then you have Catherine Parr in blue as kind of like a powerful, a calming force, a wise color. So we have all these kind of little bits of who these characters are. And what's incredible about Gabriella is she tries to meet with each actor outside of the show to kind of get an idea of how they work and how they're approaching the character. So when she designs a costume for them, it's not just a one size fits all, baby. She's going to get you a brand new look.
Custom
You're not going to have the same costume that the girl in the West End wears. Not the exact same thing. You're going to get your own deal. And it might look a little bit like somebody else's costume, but you're going to have your own things that are involved with it.
I really love that. Which
is incredible. And then the other little thing I had written down for her is just a little quote from her. And she says, "Never be afraid to get experimental. Give yourself a nice amount of time to work on something and then really dive in it," because she says that she works best when she doesn't have a lot of things on her calendar. She works best when she knows she has a lot of time to really work on something and give it her full attention, rather than she's like pulled in so many different directions.
Agreed.
And then this is the most important one. You should never feel pressured to make something normal. Isn't that great?
Say that again. Say that again for the people in the back.
You should never feel pressured to make something normal.
Amen. Amen. Hallelujah. Yeah, that's a great
that's what
quote.
I had about costumes.
I love that because I think that's the hardest part for a creative, especially being in a group of people that don't understand creatives or artists, and those people always try to put the creative in a box. Like, no, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what's been done before, and all that. And that pressure to do something normal is really debilitating. It really just like crushes your creative soul, because most creatives that I know, I mean, I know me, I know you, I know, or even our producer, we constantly are striving.
Yeah, because I'm sure there were some people that were like, wait, aren't you, I mean, they're British queens, aren't you going to have them in like traditional floor-length gowns? She was like, no, I'm going to have them fishnets and studs and rhinestones and spikes. That's what I'm going to have them in. The only thing that you will see consistent with every production is Anne Boleyn's space buns, because they're supposed to be indicative of Miley Cyrus. And you'll notice she does wear the B, the Boleyn B, and her and Katherine Howard either wear chokers or high neck something, because they're the ones that got their necks chopped off.
Yep. And I love it because it really does feel like these queens have come to the 21st century and are talking to us. You know, it's literally like if we opened up a history book, they came out of the page and were like, "Let me tell you something, honey. Get down." You know, like it was.
Yeah.
That's how
if they lived today, what would they say? You know what I mean? This guy sucked.
This guy sucked.
Moving onward to how we communicate non-verbally, the choreography.
Ooh.
Yes. And this is going to be a doozy to say. I'm gonna say this wrong, and I'm just going to say it right now. I'm going to say this wrong. But almost everywhere I looked, she's only saying her name is Carrie Ann, and she doesn't say her last name for a reason, probably. But Carrie Ann, in Grulé, it sounds very French, but she's from Guernsey. So she could be French, I guess, because that's the island between French. The island between France and England, right? Guernsey. Anyone ever see that movie, Guernsey Potato Peel Pie Society? It's so great. Anyway.
I don't know geography.
She won the Olivier Award for Best Theater Choreo for SIX. Yay. A lot of her movements obviously are very pop, hip hop based, but they also have to be kind of movements you would see in the back of, you know, a Britney Spears or a J-Lo concert. Something easy that you're going to be able to sing over, but that's also going to get the point across that almost like they're a girl group, like Spice Girls, like they're going to be able still to move and sing. But each girl has her own kind of different choreography. Yeah,
I was feeling a Destiny's Child, Spice Girls, you know, that whole vibe from it anyway, and that now makes 100% sense.
Like you have Destiny's Child kind of vibes, you have or J-Lo vibes, you know, kind of Spanish, kind of doing their mambo. When you do your mambo move.
I was like the cha-cha.
When you do like a cha-cha, like a mambo, a salsa, when you do your salsa move. Anne Boleyn, obviously because she's punk, everything's kind of, no one's really
stuck her
together.
Tongue out. She was like,
no one's really together. They're all kind of doing their own thing. Obviously no one's dancing.
Except for the one part where she was doing her sweet moment. And then they all go break off again.
Oh, yeah. And
she's like, okay, I'm contained for a second. All right, I'm done.
You know, you have the Britney Spears, Samantha Pauly, where everyone's kind of touching her and the hands and stuff.
Don't get me started again.
You have Anne of Cleves, which is very pop and locky. And, you know, then you kind of finish the show out with this Alicia Keys moment where they all find their groove together, but it's more free. It's like jazz. You find the groove, but then you're able to be yourself within the groove.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
And, you know, House of Holbein, it's just madness.
It's really fun. Exactly. A lot of twerking. But you know what I loved about her choreography is a lot of moments there was these tiny little, it's almost like Fosse-like, where she would just have isolations of just the, and you would barely notice, but it was there, and it was enough to, it was like, whoa, to cause an effect, like of the people in the background, which I thought was really cool. Or just, it was a hip, some slight movement that was strong enough, though it was small, to make an impact. And I thought that was cool too.
That is very Fosse-like, you're right. Mm-hmm. Oh, my little thing that she had, little thing that I heard her say, not necessarily about SIX, but the way she approaches choreography is soul, commitment, patience, and appreciation. Soul, you put your heart out there, you commitment to it, patience to make sure you get it right and do what you need to do, and then appreciation, like make sure you appreciate your work. Which again goes right back to giving yourself credit for when you do good things. Don't let it go on the wayside. Quick shout outs to set designer Emma Bailey, lighting designer Tim Daling, and orchestrator on Broadway Tom Curran. Thank you guys. Yes. I couldn't find a whole lot of interviews on you guys, but I just wanted to shout you guys out and say thanks.
As I'm looking at this list of amazing creatives, I just admire that it's mostly incredible. Youth. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
All right. So then the last person I had on here was the sound designer, Paul Gatehouse, because if anything about this show is important, it is the sound design.
Yes. Agreed.
So he is a West End creator that came to Broadway to do this. He has worked on West End shows like Lion King, Phantom, basically all the big ones. The way he talks about he started in sound design by being in a band in high school. That's how he started.
In a garage, probably.
In a garage, being inspired by the Beatles, the White Album, you know, different rock and roll artists. And he just got into kind of recording and sound production. One of the interviews that I read about him was so great to read the way he kind of approaches things. But then, and I'm not going to include this here, but he goes into so much detail about what he uses, and I don't understand it because I don't understand sound design. So when they're like, do you use a drum, blah, 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 and I'm like, skip.
Sure.
I don't know what this is.
I do use a DR-17.
How do you feel about, like a CRF7?
Yeah, like, don't you?
Obviously, CRF7. I probably said something, and there's a sound designer like, I would never use a CRF7. But he talks, they actually asked him a really interesting question in this interview where they asked him, why do you think that theater sound designers don't get enough credit in the sound design world? Whereas like if you sound design a concert or if you sound design this show or like this or that, you know what I mean? It gets more credit than a theater sound designer. And he's like, well, I just think they don't understand how intense it is.
It's true.
Especially with a show like SIX, it's all about planning, calculations, mathematics, because you are trying to figure out how everyone can have the exact same experience no matter where they sit. And that he's like, and that is extremely difficult, but very rewarding when you get it done. And a lot of that work goes unnoticed in the sound design world and the theater world. We don't think about it. I don't think about it.
No, and
I don't think about how my experience is the same over there sound quality wise. Mm-mm. Don't think about that at all. And that's the point.
And that's the point. They don't want you to. There's some things that happen in theater that they don't want you to notice, and if you do notice, they have messed up their job. But that's why I'm actually glad that we do these off-book series, because giving those nods to the people who don't get them, I think that's going to be something that also starts to change in the future. And yes, they get awards still; they're recognized by award, but from the normal population, so that when they do see a show, that they can remember that this is not just the actors on stage.
Yes.
You know, this is so much bigger than that. And it really appreciating all parts of theater and not just one part. So I'm excited. That's why I love these. So good job, mister.
Good job. And here's his quote that I have for him.
Yes.
Stay open to opportunities. If things feel like they're taking a long time, they are, but it's worth it. And I have two more shout outs I want to make sure we get as well, since we're not really kind of diving into who they are and what they're about, because I do kind of like this idea of keeping this going. The stage manager, Bonnie Pantson, lady stage manager. Thank you, Bonnie.
Yes, Bonnie.
Our casting.
Oh, Bonnie's the one that the Hamilton stage manager referenced.
Bonnie Pantson?
Yes, is the one that
he learned everything from her.
Mm-hmm, that he was inspired by. So yes, Bonnie.
Yes,
mm-hmm.
Yes, Bonnie.
That Jason Bassett.
You go off and you inspire all sorts of budding stage managers out there. Thank you for all that you do. Yes. Thank you, casting at Tara Rubin Casting, Peter Van Dam, Bob Mason. Thank you for casting these awesome ladies in their role. Jamie Armitage, who co-directs with Lucy Moss.
Yes. Yes.
Both on the West End and on Broadway.
It looks like
Jamie
fun.
Armitage. You know that saying that's kind of circulated in the past couple of years where you fix another girl's crown without letting her know it's crooked?
Yes.
And I feel like that has become a thing of like women helping women, truly helping women, and truly just being there for an entire sisterhood or, you know, non-binary group of people, and accepting everyone and holding them up. And I feel like that's what this show is all about. It gives everyone the opportunity to shine. It's 6 very powerful women and by the time we get to the end of the show, it's all about how special they are and how different they are, but how they are all fantastic. It has nothing to do with who's better than the other. It has nothing to do with this competition. They're all great. And that's what you realize as the audience. You're like, how would you ever pick one? Because they're all fantastic. You don't pick one. That's the point.
Musical theater history. How does this correlate? You know, what have they drawn from? What have they were inspired from? What information do you have for us?
So in terms of musical theater, obviously it is a theater piece, and we have little bits and pieces kind of scattered throughout, but it's mostly based in kind of pop music and pop culture and powerhouse female stars. Mm-hmm. The musical itself, here we go, guys. Strap in. There has never been an all-female Broadway musical.
Oh!
Never. Never has there ever been an all-female Broadway musical. There has been some all-female off-Broadway musicals, like Beehive in 1986 and Nonsense in 1985. Nonsense was actually the second longest running off-Broadway show in theater history, after the Fantastics, of course. And a all-men off-Broadway show, Forever Plaid. That's kind of like the opposite to Beehive. Like, it's a jukebox musical where they take music from another time and kind of put a storyline to it. Mm-hmm. The only thing about Nonsense is that usually the joke is that the priests are the band. So it's an all-male band for a female-led show.
Right.
And obviously Nonsense has had several iterations, like Nonsense the sequel and Nonsense Christmas and Nonsense, all these other different iterations.
Nonsense.
I think there's like 7 sequels of Nonsense. Choose any one. Mm-hmm. Now, when we're talking about male-heavy shows, only on Broadway, I'm only focusing on Broadway. These are a list. This is a list of the mostly men-involved musicals that have been on Broadway. Jersey Boys, Glory Days, Ain't Too Proud, Newsies, Full Monty, 1776, Damn Yankees, Boys from Syracuse, Promises, Promises, Book of Mormon, Rocky, American Idiot, Assassins, Billy Elliot, Camelot, Damn Yankees, Dracula the Musical, the Fantastics off Broadway. Whoops, how did that get in there? Fiddler on the Roof, Five Guys Named Mo, Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, Kinky Boots, Pacific Overtures, Paint Your Wagon, Peter and the Starcatcher, Peter Pan, Passion, Pirates of Penzance, The Producers, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. Interestingly enough, Singing in the Rain, Something Rotten, West Side Story, Roar of the Grease Paint, Smell of the Crowd, Les Mis, Oliver, and another funny one, Guys and Dolls. Now, if we're talking just Broadway, the list of mostly female heavy Broadway shows are Little Women, Thoroughly Modern Millie, Legally Blonde, Jane Eyre, Bring It On, Follies, Mean Girls, 9 to 5, and Sister Act. Notice something a little different about that list?
Completely off balance, yes.
Way shorter.
Yes.
So when you think about musical theater, how many times have you seen a show where it's mostly the male storyline and he kind of runs into the female and it's all about him trying to get her, or, and yeah, she'll have a song or two and they'll have a song together and you kind of learn about her background or whatever, but it's mostly follows the storyline of the male character.
Well, I grew up thinking that the female was always just the love interest, that it was mostly the male story or a male's circumstance or situation, and the female was simply the love interest that then turns into his support that helps him get through whatever he's trying to get through, or oftentimes it's either the love interest or the one that causes him the pain. Right. I broke up with or this girl doesn't want me, or my wife died, or something where we cause his story to happen or whatever. So I've never seen, or very little have I seen, that the story is actually the woman's. It's always the woman is a part of the man's in some way, but it's never about her. Right.
And especially in musicals where you think it would be maybe even, because there is a lot of evenality sometimes in musicals, but musicals that you think would be maybe be even, like Guys and Dolls, or what was the other? It was like another.
And it's hard, and I've actually faced this difficulty as I was writing my musical. I am writing a musical. I won't tell you what it is yet. But as I was writing my musical, because mine is based on history, and again, history itself is male dominated. So I'm trying to take this story that I really want to tell, but it is heavily male dominated, and I literally have to dig where I can put my females and where I can still make them not only a part of the story, but just as equally as important as the males in the story.
Yeah, it's true. And like I said before, with shows that you think, because it's in the title, that would be more equal, like Guys and Dolls or Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, it still follows the male perspective. The only two female characters in Guys and Dolls are Adelaide and Sarah. Isn't that and then you see like the two numbers that have chorus girls in them, really, or if you want to have Havana and you have some ladies in Havana, but other than that, the show's about Guys and Dolls, but you only hear about two different types of dolls, and then you have all these different guys.
Well, and if you really go down into history, I mean, then you go into how theater history started in the first place, in a sense, and it was males playing females. So they definitely had no space in the dramatic arts, and it was almost like they were trying to fit them in. Okay, well, now we actually have women and we want them to be a part. Well, where do we put them? Well, let's either put them as a damsel, as some love interest, as something. Yeah.
So that's where we get to when we get to SIX, is now we're looking at a musical that's written from a totally female driven perspective. You have 6 women or 6 non-binary people on stage that are completely equal. No one's better than anyone else. No one's less than anyone else. They're all completely equal. Their stories are all valid. And then they're also all very body positive. You do not have to look a certain way. You do not have to have a certain hair color or skin color or body shape to be any one of those queens.
Yeah.
And that's what makes that show so
it makes
impressive.
It so special. And it's again, like, I love this new, like, fully diverse way, like you said, from body type to race to everything, because it's proving that you can still be the character and look nothing like them.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of the, like there's only one Caucasian female in this show of the 6 wives, and the rest are all of color. And yet I still 100% believe that they are who they are. And that's what's so amazing, is that it just again shows you that theater is different. Theater always goes back to the art first, which in the art is about the story and the characters first, not necessarily about looking apart.
Right. Thank you for joining us on One Hen Two Ducks.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us for another off-book episode.
Indeed. Please like and subscribe if you have not already. It's just, we love you, and we would thank you greatly for supporting us. We
love knowing you like it. So if you like it and subscribe, that lets us know you like it. And it keeps us making stuff for you. On to our Patreon, patreon.com/1hen. Become a patron. Get some cool merch. Get some behind the scenes videos. Get a shout out in our podcast. Talk to us one-on-one. The possibilities are endless. Also follow us on social media. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, baby.
We're on TikTok now. Like I said, we're on everything. We're getting cool, people.
We're there. We're getting cool. We're trying to be cool.
We're trying to be cool.
If you have any tips, let us know in the comments. If you have any tips, let us know in the comments.
I feel like that moment in Almost Famous when she's like, one day you will be cool. One day we will.
Subscribe to the podcast. Give us some stars. Right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We love you. Go listen to 6. Bye.